Welcome in. Happy Tuesday morning. Great to have you on board on KCMO Talk Radio. And we are thrilled to welcome on and say good morning for the first time on this program, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, alongside one of our own, Missouri Congressman Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio. Mark, let's start with you and just tee up this conversation, helping coordinate this. We greatly appreciate it. And what you want to make sure this audience is getting out of this conversation, and obviously what's been a good working relationship between yourself and the Speaker of the House.
Well, thank you, Pete. Thank you so much for being on. And Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule. 2 years ago, Pete, as you know, because you were on that side of the mic, I called in and announced my candidacy for this position. I had had enough of the media. I had had enough of Joe Biden. The moment that he abandoned our friends and allies in Afghanistan and left 13 service members there to die on that wall in Kabul turned my stomach. And I thought right then and there that was a final straw. I was going to run for this office, and I ran very hard in all 24 counties. And at that time, Leader McCarthy, I think, took an interest in what we were doing. I think he knew we had the right message, that our heart was in it for America, just as his was, and he stood behind me, and I stood behind him for 15 votes in that House chamber. And when he was finally elected Speaker of the House, I think it was a great moment for America. He has done nothing but try to build consensus in our conference and try to get through meaningful legislation to improve America for all Americans, not just Republicans, but Democrats and independents, so that we can truly live in a better America where folks are inspired to be greater Americans. And I think that's my goal as well, that we can move our country forward. And so thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being here.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, welcome on to KCMO here in Kansas City. Just from your perspective, with Congressman Alford, the support that you've gotten from the state of Missouri at large, what has that meant to you here several months into the job and trying to right the ship there in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I will tell you, I've never been so impressed with Mark. I knew his talent beforehand. I mean, it caught my eye when 2 years ago he said he'd throw his hat in the ring. We never thought we'd see that. But, I mean, think about just from his committee assignment to start out with, armed services, agriculture, small business. We know how important all that is. But I don't know if you know back home his work ethic, but, whoa, I've never seen somebody work as hard as him. On the floor, in the messaging, but just on the ground. I just saw the other day, we got the farm bill coming up. It only happens once every 5 years. He's out there listening to all the farmers going throughout. You've watched him in the armed services making a difference, especially what after happened in Afghanistan, making sure that never repeats itself. But we watch as well just these biting economics about what pain it has caused. The American public costing them every family more than $700. I've watched him make that battle on the floor, and he's just done a tremendous job. I just can't thank you enough for sending him here, his voice, and I'll tell you what, behind the scenes, he's exactly as he's out front as well. He makes a very strong argument, and he makes the case always for America first.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I mean, you well know, you mentioned the Bidenomics, and poll after poll after poll shows the American people are in no way satisfied with the economy. But, of course, you look back to last year and the midterms didn't go exactly how a lot of us thought it might go. So how do you, with 15 months until the next election, how do you really hit home to the American people that, hey, what we're doing is not working, here's the reason why, and this is why we need a new direction? How do you get that mandate more so than what happened a year ago?
Well, you show the fundamental difference from Bidenomics. I mean, why did we have the inflation at the highest rates? We have interest rates now the highest it's been in 20 years. This is with the Democrats in complete control. They spent another $6 trillion. We've been able to already cut $2 trillion in that. Show that you don't need 87,000 new IRS agents. We repealed those in the House, pulled back those from this year. We watched that we create a parents' bill of rights, that we believe parents should have a say in their kids' education. We believe in streets being safe and communities. We believe the borders should be secure. We passed H.R. 2. We believe the energy, your gas prices should be lower. Your energy costs should be lower. America should be stronger around the world, utilizing the resources that God has blessed this nation with. We passed what was H.R. 1 to make us energy independent. We can go policy after policy. We can see the fundamental difference here. We've watched how the president handles from a spy balloon in the sky coming across from China to a fire in Hawaii. He has not handled the issues correctly. We show that there's a better, more conservative way to handle this that would put us on a better path for the future.
Congressman Alford, you heard there Speaker McCarthy mention, of course, the farm bill that is up. And I know here in the last few days, you had a meeting with Missouri's agriculture producers during that farm bill listening session. When you look at that issue, the upcoming farm bill, what do you want to make sure Missourians in your district know about this negotiation, where it's at, and what you want to bring to the table?
Well, Pete, really what I'm trying to do is not just educate folks in our 4th Congressional District. We have 95,000 farms in the great state of Missouri. A lot of those are in our 4th Congressional District. The farmers know the importance of the farm safety net for them. I'm trying to educate folks in St. Louis and Kansas City and the urban cores, and I've been to meetings there as well, about the importance of these safety nets and continuing them and possibly expanding them to make sure that our farmers are secure in the job they do. This is a three-legged stool, the farm bill as I see it. Protect our farmers with the safety nets they need. If they don't have the crop insurance, they can't get the loans from the banks to plant their seed, to buy their fuel and fertilizer, which Joe Biden has drastically raised the cost of those through inflation and his demonization of the fossil fuel industry. The second leg of that stool is to make sure that our nation is fed. 81% of our farm bill this year is going to be centered around the supplemental nutritional program for Americans. If someone is truly hungry in America and cannot work, I don't mind helping them out. But we are raising the standards for that, the work requirements and the age, and it's not unreasonable. 54 is not too old to be out looking for a job. I'm going to turn 60. I've had 2 or 3 jobs my entire lifetime. Either have job training, volunteer, get a job. We want to help you. The SNAP program is basically a job training venue to where we can help Americans get back into the groove to being productive for their society. The third leg of that stool is the conservation programs, and there are no better conservationists and stewards of God's creation than farmers and ranchers. Without the proper clean air, water, and land, the farmers can't produce the crops they need. These are symbiotic relationships between these 3 legs on this stool. And we don't just feed Missouri, we don't just feed America, but we're feeding the world. And so we've got to make sure that this farm bill gets through this year.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Congressman Mark Alford are on KCMO Talk Radio. Mr. Speaker, on this issue, I mean, of course, we know that September 30th deadline is looming just over a month from now. Where do you feel like you're at on those negotiations? And with that deadline rapidly approaching, do you expect a short-term agreement on this, or do you think it'll be something longer and bigger?
Well, I will tell you, when we were first coming in with the Democrats in power, they would never even pass the most basic things you have to in Congress, the appropriation bills. They wouldn't even write them so you could see them. They would wait until Christmas and do it in the back of the room, and they create something called an omnibus, where they would just add spending. We've made sure now you can't increase spending, that you cap what we're going to be able to go forward with. But for the first time, based upon putting a little provision in, if you don't do all 12 bills, you get a 1% cut across the board. It made everybody angry, but you know what? For the first time in the Senate, they at least passed out of committee. We've got them out of committee. We started passing them off the floor before we departed. When we come back, we'll finish that job, hopefully get into conference. But we're going to make this government work more efficiently, more effectively, and most importantly, more accountable. Those are the changes. Remember, the first thing we did is members now have to show up to go to work. Bills have to be passed through committee. We can read the bills now. We hold them for 72 hours, so not just members of Congress can read it, all of America can read it. That's common sense, but that's something totally new that Republicans had to put in. We opened up the House so people could actually see their House and how their government works. We put the onus back to where the Constitution said it should be. And it's just like this, and in the Farm Bill itself, Our American farmers or ranchers are some of the most efficient producers in the world. And we believe in food safety and food security. And you want to make sure that's grown in America. And that's why farm bills are so important. But what Mark has been doing, going out there, he's got an ag community, listening to them, fighting for them, and then educating other parts of the importance of it, of where we go and continue to be able to grow, to feed. And these are unbelievable businesses of farmers out there taking the greatest risk in the world as they go through each and every year, but provide us the resources we need and the food to plenish our bodies.
Speaker McCarthy, on another note, of course, I know you're probably getting asked about this at every turn. Joe Biden, the Biden family, the business dealings overseas. You've got, of course, the House investigating this. What will it take for you to feel like the House is in a place to move forward with impeachment proceedings against this president? What do you feel like you need when it comes to evidence in the House on your side to move ahead with that?
Well, I would say anytime with impeachment, it just has to rise to the level what the Constitution says. I mean, the first thing everybody has to understand, what they're listening, you wouldn't know anything about this had Republicans not investigated. And every week we learn something new. It just seems to me that there's two standards of justice here in America, one for the Bidens and one for everybody else. I mean, think about what we've now learned. When Joe Biden was vice president, his family went out and created 20 shell companies. Even while he was vice president, 16 of the 17 payments from Romania were paid. We now found out the president told us he had nothing to do with his son's business, but now we found with the business partners that that's true. He called into these meetings. We now found that he said he never showed up at any meetings. Well, no, he went to dinner, and after you go to dinner, the son got a new Porsche. $3.5 million was wired. We now have IRS agents that's come before us telling us that the family got treated differently. We've now found that the shell company's money's gone to 9 different family members. We're told one thing by Garland. We said we needed a special prosecutor for this back in February. He said they did not. He just now names Weiss, but Weiss was the individual that screwed up this whole process to start out with, where the judge actually rejected what they were doing. We now find out that Biden's family said they were going to have to put the president on the stand to influence the Justice Department. Somebody in this process is lying, and that's what I'm walking through, making sure the American public has all the information. But if this ever rises to the level of impeachment, we will move forward with that. We uphold the Constitution, and we will continue. As I've said before, if this administration fights us and denies us the ability to get the information we need each and every week we move forward, we will move with an impeachment inquiry, which will give us the top-level ability of strength for the legal cases to get all the information we need.
In the last 30 seconds, do you have a timeline on that, or do you have to just follow the House's investigation?
Look, we continue to follow, and every week you learn something new with a new bank statement that you never knew you had. And they continue to fight us, but the one thing I want all your listeners to understand, we will never give up. We'll never give up for you, to secure your border, give you stronger and safer streets, give you a greater say in your kids' education, and just like this, holding government accountable. And with the Biden family corruption, we will get to the bottom of where it all lies.
Congressman Alford, the last word is yours here in the final 60 seconds.
Look, I totally agree. The Biden crime family is a disgrace to America. I am very much in favor, and Speaker McCarthy knows this, of moving into an impeachment inquiry. That will be up to him. But I think our nation is at stake. Our national security is at stake. The time is now. The walls are closing in on the Bidens, and I think you're going to start seeing some desperation in their corner. We have truth and right and might on our side, and we must win this for the American people.
Congressman Alford, Speaker McCarthy, thank you both for being here in Kansas City. We are grateful for the time, and we'll be talking to you both soon. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
You guys as well. Have a great day. There you go. Kevin McCarthy and Congressman Mark Alford on KCMO Talk Radio.